Today, something special is happening. We're giving a trial run, a technical run-through of our simultaneous Spanish interpretation of our service. Yeah. So we're trying it out, and Julie Burns is sitting up in the balcony there, and she's simultaneously translating. So I'm going to speak very fast today, see if you can keep up with me. And we've got somebody just listening to it. And then eventually, as we get the system down, we're going to invite you to let your Spanish-speaking friends know about it so that we can select services by appointment to do it. Because we're just starting. We want to make sure we cater properly to our Spanish-speaking people. So that's very exciting. And also, on stage, we have a beautiful stage today, thanks to William Abel. Yeah. And this is Saraswati, who is an icon of spiritual wisdom in the Hindu tradition, which is quite appropriate to our topic today because we're talking about spiritual guidance. The theme for May is spiritual guidance and personal responsibility. And today our topic is, what is mine to do within this idea of responsibility and spiritual guidance? And it's based on an idea from our movement's vision, which you've heard, called the global vision. And it's a vision that invites us to imagine the world as being guided by spiritual wisdom in such a way that each one of us is called to our own appropriate social action. And the emphasis is on spiritual wisdom. And that means, among other things, it means the wisdom that comes from knowing that we are all connected to one another and to everything, and we are connected through this thing called spirit, which is one united, undivided, single reality. And when I live from that awareness, well, that's when I choose actions that resonate with oneness, connection, camaraderie, compassion. So my question for myself this week is, Edward, is spiritual wisdom the basis of my thinking? I hope so, right? I mean, do I refer to oneness and connection and compassion and camaraderie when I'm deciding what's mine to do? In the 60s, Willis Kinnear and Ernest Holmes co-wrote a lovely little easy-to-read book called A New Design for Living, and I remember these words from it. In our desire to start to succeed in a different way than we have in the past, we create a new balance in our pattern of thinking and establish a balance that is more favorable toward good. I remember this because it seems to me today more than ever, I am sensitive more than ever to the direction in which the balance of thought is tipping in our culture. Our nation is approaching election time. And I notice, it seems to me that we are having difficulty in discussing important issues. On Facebook, somebody, for their status update, asked a question. Very simply, it says, so, ... I'm curious, ... who do you think will win the election? And instead of answering the question, the comments below ruptured into a battle of harsh words about whose candidate is the biggest liar. You see, my expectation was when I read the status, I could learn something here. I could learn, sensible people discussing, I've noticed this and that issue. No. What I encountered was pretty much the lowest level of name calling I could imagine. I wouldn't even say high school. High school is too mature. And I thought back to these words and thought, I would restate them even more strongly for myself right now. In our desire to start to succeed in a different way than we have in the past, we might want to seriously consider some new patterns of thinking and start tipping the balance in favor of the way we want to create our world. Because it is we who are creating society. Society wasn't created evil. So is spiritual wisdom the basis of my thinking? In which directions are the patterns of my own thinking tilting? Do I refer to oneness, collaboration, compassion, camaraderie when I decide what is mine to do in this society, what is mine to say in this society? I belong to a professional organization, and we discuss certain things in this organization. We have a discussion board to do it on the internet, and we have similar challenges as this Facebook issue. When a challenging topic is presented, oftentimes the discussion deteriorates into an atmosphere of contention. It's shocking. I would say sometimes it is near impossible for us to talk about important issues, because emotions start to drive the conversation, and then the focus shifts onto hurt feelings, not debate. And then anger separates and divides us into camps. Oh, I remember when Rabbi George Gittelman came to visit us and we co-taught the class on the spiritual perspective on anger. He said something so powerful. He taught us that the voice of anger can rarely be trusted to be accurate. In fact, he said never. I'm with him. No, when we're busy being angry at each other, not much to trust. And I sometimes think of aliens, from another dimension or another universe, stopping by and peeking in on Facebook. Or peeking in on our political process. Or peeking in on my professional bulletin board. Now, what will they learn about who we are from observing the direction and the balance in which our thinking is tipping as a culture, as a species, as a nation? And very importantly, and what is my part in it? Because that's the cornerstone of metaphysics. What is my part in it? Do I, when I'm getting involved in all this, do I refer to oneness, connection, camaraderie, collaboration, kindness? Do I refer to that when I'm deciding how to engage and be part of it, because I am contributing to the way things are by the balance in my own personal pattern of thinking? And here at Center for Spiritual Living, we are taught that's the good news, because we can begin contributing with new energy at any moment we want to, and begin to tip the balance in a new direction, especially when I am making sure that I'm thinking from spiritual wisdom, asking myself the question, what is the basis of my thinking? Is it that I'm connected to everyone and to everything? Is it that we're connected by one undivided single reality principle? And we're taught to not give up on that perspective, not give up on that basis, to stay close to it. The President of the United States of America issued a video in which he urges us to consider how very important it is for every single one of us to vote. And he said on that video that if every single one of us voted, we couldn't but help we couldn't help but see a shift in things in our nation. And then the comment section on the video ruptured, revealing a pattern of thinking that was tilting in a direction. Now, I was glad to see that there were many, many young people commenting there, but I was also sad to see what they were saying. Many of them were expressing, what's the point? My vote doesn't count anyway. And I thought to myself, whether they are correct or not, or whether they are accurate or not, even more important than a lack of voting is a lack of caring, giving up, because that adds something to the group mind. If we tip the balance in the direction of not caring, we've got a real problem. Giving up hope in the face of tyranny or injustice or corruption or betrayal or whatever it is that we perceive is up is how we help that to be successful. That's how we tip the balance in its favor. And here we are taught not to give up. No matter how strong the evidence is against our desired good, we are taught to get an idea of the good we desire. We call that a vision, and it's even better than hope. To get a vision in our minds, we are to see an image of our lives, of our bodies, of our family, of our nation, of our city, working very well, governed by oneness, connection, collaboration, and compassion, and to stay with that idea, to stay with that vision, to stick with it, and to keep on keeping on, no matter how loudly roars the voice of contention around us, and to believe that we are making a very real and substantial difference by mentally tipping the scales in the direction of good with the meditations of our hearts, and then the words of our mouth, and then the actions that grow out of that. I like the words on there, more favorable. Those two, more favorable, because they speak to moderation, which is very important for me, because I have to remember to not get too rigid with this life, especially now. Yes, to aim for excellence, but forget about perfection. Because maybe things aren't going to be perfect right away, not to give up. Let me aim at least for improvement in the balance of things and to trust that. Because I have to avoid all or nothing thinking. And then at the end of every day, I can take my quiet time and check, how did I do today? Can examine my behavior. Do I need to make any adjustments in the patterns of my thinking, in the patterns of my speaking? Because maybe you and I won't be able to master perfection all in one day. But I'm not giving up. I'm going to just start again fresh tomorrow. That's how I keep on shifting the balance till eventually I see movement. I'm going to start in a new direction every morning, no matter where the previous day's journey brought me to. I've seen that be effective in groups, in families, in groups of friends. I saw it happen on this professional bulletin board I was talking about. A small group of people on the board, steadfastly, resolutely centering their contribution on oneness, collaboration, camaraderie, and compassion by being polite and on point and neutral. They effectively, over time, shifted the tone and the character of the group dynamic. I've seen it. And it's inspiring to me. So, as a result, I don't write snarky comments on social media. I am not rude to telemarketers. That's a lie. Oh, I've got a lot of work to do in that area. Oh my goodness. Have you noticed an increase in sales calls on cell phones? Oh, it tweaks me. Oh my gosh, just the other day I was so rude to a man on the phone. Ooh. And I hung up the phone and thought to myself, was my response based in spiritual wisdom? Phew. Was I speaking from the wisdom that comes from knowing that we are all connected one to the other through a wisdom, a spirit that is undivided, a single reality? And if so, why did I bite his head off? Oh. See, an important part of our teaching is also that what comes out of my mouth started in my awareness as a thought, and we are learning to take responsibility for that interaction. Does this mean that we will have no opinion? No. It means I will find a way to express it kindly. And does it mean that I will avoid talking about difficult issues? No, try that. You can't avoid that. Instead, it means that when I do address difficult topics and opposing ideas, I will do my best to address them without spite and meanness, no matter what the other person's preferred mode of communication is. Whew. We can still have passionate, engaged, and interesting conversations. It's possible. You'll find your own way to it. I'll find my own way. Here are some points that guide me. First of all, ask questions courageously and kindly. Ask questions to find out what's going on, because listening to other people without rushing into expressing my own opinion, oh, what an amazing practice. To learn what's important and alive for them. And then questions prompt people to reveal themselves more. It's wonderful. I had a conversation with a man. I was waiting on a train station in another country. We were waiting for the train. And we talked. And I imagined that the conversation went very well. And that we were of the same opinion. I felt very good. And at the close of it, I thought to myself, that was wonderful. And then he shared with me that he disagreed with my point of view entirely. And I had no idea. Because he had been listening so attentively that I mistook the listening for agreement. And he was asking, prompting questions and clarifying questions. And I realized that when he told me he didn't agree, I had no charge on his disagreement. Because he had no animosity toward me. He just disagreed. And because I had spoken so extensively, I hadn't learned what his point of view was, really. I hadn't asked him a single question. What a thing to learn. The other thing that guides me is to take responsibility for the emotional impact I have on others. Whew. I have a friend, and she tells me that when she has arguments with her husband, she always remembers exactly how she feels after the argument, but she can never remember what he said. See, that's important. See, I used to think it was all about the information and the facts and getting them clearly through. It's not. Somebody introduced me to this beautiful phrase that tipped the balance in my thinking. People don't care what you know until they know what you care about. I have a professional friend, and his company was coming to pieces at the seams. And so he kicked into action. He was starting to fix it all. So he focused on organizing. He focused on training. He focused on skills. He focused on efficiency and team building to make things better, but they just got worse and worse and worse. And then I introduced him to the phrase that tipped the balance in my thinking. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And he shifted. And he started asking his employees how they were. He started inquiring about their family. He asked them what they thought about his ideas, and it saved his company. I learned from that. I learned that it doesn't matter how correct I am about my issue if I don't care about the people who disagree with me. I'm not going to get anywhere because they will remember my snarkiness and not the content of my correctness. Here's something else I learned. I learned to get comfortable with not speaking until I'm clear. I learned that from my grandmother. She told me sometimes it's better to say nothing until you can say it beautifully. I thought that was a sure way to avoid conflict of any kind. Just wait. But the truth is, even when I learn to say something beautifully, it can stir things up. And so I've got to get comfortable with waiting in the discomfort. I have a pond at home, and when the weather warms up, the water evaporates, and from time to time I have to put new, clean, fresh water. I pour it in like truth. And it makes everything worse. It stirs up everything at the bottom of the pond, and it's going to take a while before it's beautiful again. It takes time. I notice people can be uncomfortable with silence. I know I used to be. Silence in conversations, even in groups. And yet I'm learning now that silence is particularly useful when I'm trying to integrate what's going on and what I think. Right? Silence is particularly helpful when the lying voice of anger wants to express itself. Wait. And I believe that since I started practicing meditation, it's helped me become more comfortable sitting, waiting. I don't have to respond until I find my true, authentic voice. I'm working on that. I was having a conversation with a young lady who was having a relationship breakup, and she said to me, "My mind is racing, and I'm so confused. I feel lost." She said, "Edward, what should I do?" And I said to her, "Right now, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Sit still and trust that stillness." And that's good advice for me. Trust the stillness. Not because it will lead me safely to inaction away from the world, no. But because in the stillness is where I can consult with spiritual wisdom. The wisdom that will prompt me to do what is mine to do. Because in the silence, I can contemplate the question, am I basing my thoughts, am I basing my actions, my life on oneness, collaboration, connection, camaraderie, kindness, love? It's a good question. And I think it's a good question because, in my opinion, this is a good time for us to pray for our nation. And I think we owe it to ourselves to do that from the most peaceful place we can get to. So I invite you to join me in doing just that by breathing in and exhaling, letting your eyes close. As we begin this prayer with gratitude, gratitude for all of the people who help. Gratitude and appreciation for all people who are involved in relief efforts everywhere and anywhere. All the people who give financially to charities. And appreciation for all the people who are first responders. And all volunteers. And all the organizations which help people thrive. And we give thanks for all of the teachers who develop our children's minds, and for all of the nurses and the doctors and all medical staff, and for all the mothers of all the nations who birth all of our children. And for all of the fathers and all of the role models and all of the heroes of forgiveness, the ones who lift the heavy weights. We appreciate and give thanks for all of the peace officers and the firefighters and the rescue personnel. And we give thanks for all clergy of all faiths who teach oneness, connection, and compassion. And we give thanks for the farmers and the workers who produce good, clean food. And we give thanks for politicians of all parties and all the staff in all the stores and all the restaurants who attend to us. And for all of the merchants and civil engineers and construction workers who create for us. And for all people in all places. And for all the animals and all the creatures of every kind. And for all the plants. And for all of the air and the water. And for all of us. So that we may be reminded that we are connected to all that is through one undivided Spirit, one reality principle. So that as we access that awareness and gratitude, we can take a stand for peace. And let it shine, let it be birthed like a light in us that is guiding and helpful and restorative, not only for our own selves, but for all of those people who come into our thought atmosphere. Today, by means of this prayer, we are consulting with spiritual wisdom. We do so to honor and celebrate this one power, this one spiritual reality, and our relationship to it, and to reconfirm our faith in the creative power of our prayer through the use of our mind. Humbly, gratefully, we let it be. And together we say, and so it is. I invite you to breathe in and to sigh.